Initially, I was making a Biggie title run video, but I scrapped that. I realized, wait a minute, he won Money in the Bank, and for the most part, the champions have subpar runs. Not everyone, though, but upon further inspection, I noticed a pattern. Money in the Bank, we all know it's essentially a plot device. It's a very easy way to have somebody become world champion without doing the extra build-up. Guys like Edge and Daniel Bryan benefited greatly from it. But then there's others like Jack Swagger who were nerfed after winning the briefcase. Now, I'm just talking about the other side of Money in the Bank. I'm not talking about the good side of it. I'll mention that later, though. Oh, and I forgot. What is up, guys? Wrestling Premiere is here. I got a bunch of ideas lined up. I've been working recently, tried different stuff out, because we can't be doing the same stuff every day. It's not a good idea. With that said, around early 2005, a ladder match for the opportunity to challenge for a world title was pegged. Like Appleton, this was a Chris Jericho invention. It was eventually tweaked to a Money in the Bank match, but not many expected it to become what it was. On paper, you're thinking this was a one-on-one title match. Turns out, it was basically a handicap match, and the man who carried the briefcase in storyline had the outright advantage. Edge became the first holder of the briefcase, and he saw his career skyrocket. Unlike others, a Radar Superstar becoming the champion was a success. He showed that a second run was deserving, and I almost put him in here, but as the hours went by, I thought, hell no. I couldn't bring myself to include Edge in this video because his run was not a failure. Sure, it was short. Sure, he lost the title in his second defense, but he was very entertaining. He did some great work during his run. Which brings me to Rob Van Dam. Similar to Edge, he was on the brink of reaching the main event. Hell, many, and when I look back, including myself, believe he was ready a long time ago. He cashed in and the RVD era was on for all of 2 minutes because this man was busted with weed. Unlike most of the inclusions in this video, either injuries or odd booking hampered them. With Van Dam, he was a victim of time. He was calling marijuana. This, of course, meant the titles were taken away from him, but despite this, the run itself was decent. He just had a very unlucky conclusion to the run. CM Punk's first title run. Around early 2008, Jeff Hardy managed to connect with the audience in a way that many won't in their lifetimes. Obviously, there was a relationship there with the fans already, but it increased around here. There was doubt over putting the title on him, but despite this man was undeniable, so tentative plans for WrestleMania 24 saw the charismatic Enigma capture the career-changing briefcase. However, in the weeks leading up to Orlando, Hardy was suspended. Enter CM Punk. This man, he was popular with the crowd and had a decent run as ECW champion. He was anything but a bad choice for the briefcase when looking back. There was a couple of choices there, but CM Punk wasn't bad. Fast forward a few months later, Punk cashes in and you think he was the focal point of the show, but he wasn't. Don't try to take it as me trashing his run. He had some good matches, but when you look at it from a certain perspective, he was nothing more than a transitional champion. There was far too much focus on the bigger stars such as Batista, John Cena, Shawn Michaels, to the point where his run felt a bit lackluster, and to make matters worse, his run ended on a whimper. Nonetheless, they still believed in him, and by WrestleMania 25, he was the first two-time Money in the Bank winner. Oh, and Edge's was illegal. I don't count that one. His run was much better this time around as he feuded with Jeff Hardy. After 2 years with the same guy, WWE thought, why not Jack Swagger? Looking back, it's not an outright terrible decision, but when you look at the build of WrestleMania, you think of 3 people: Drew McIntyre, Christian, and Kofi Kingston, so Jack Swagger winning was somewhat surprising. He showed great potential inside the ring with his collegiate wrestling background. His character wasn't bad as well with the whole jock thing. Then the moment he cashed in, I kid you not, his charisma and character died off. You disagree? Watch this match. He's out there all pumped up. He's like, I'm cashing in the Money in the Bank, this and that. And the moment he becomes champion, he ditched what brought him to this very point. It's like me making this a golf channel. Eventually brought back the arrogance and confidence, but this title reign wasn't it. The booking was very questionable, promos were forgettable, there's not many good matches, and it was so bad that Swagger was shunned away from the main event scene for 3 years. Even then he blew up, but that's a different story. Out of all the people in this video, I'd probably say Swagger was second worst at the very least. Later that year, the WWE thought it was best to give the Money in the Bank match its entire pay-per-view. This would also allow each brand to have their respective ladder match. The Miz was the lucky man who was selected to capture the Raw briefcase. Was this deserved? Hell yeah. The then United States champion reinvented himself and slowly started getting everybody's attention. Of course, the one thing going against him was his in-ring skills, but you can overlook that because he had the one skill that many lacked, and that's the promo skill. Now, that era of WWE did have a lot of good talkers, but Miz was really one of the best. He was improving as the weeks went by. He had the charisma, and best of all to management, he had an incredible work ethic. In the past decade, there's not many people who put more effort in promoting WWE like The Miz. He's their ambassador. He's always there. Then came his title reign. It wasn't as bad as many in this video, but you could clearly notice the weird booking coming into play. He was, no pun intended, an awesome heel. He knew how to rile up the fans, but it's like that his run was on borrowed time. Add to that, he was the third wheel in a WrestleMania main event, and he was the champion. But nonetheless, I'd say compared to the champions in this video, Miz had probably one of the better runs, even if it's not spoken about positively for the most part. Unfortunately for him, though, after losing the title, he had the whole Awesome Truth thing and was blamed for the low Survivor Series buy rate. I don't understand that, and he was sent down to the mid-card. On the other side, WWE had been building up a man by the name of Alberto Del Rio. On paper, he was a viable choice to make champion. came from a very rich wrestling family, and that alone gives him an advantage. He had that douchey, arrogant, rich guy character and performed it well. His in-ring skills were good, and they took notice. They're like, hey, this man should be world champion. The first step was having him win the Royal Rumble, and then 6 months later, Money in the Bank. His cash-in came from out of nowhere, and he walked out of SummerSlam as a new champion, but his title run was very one-sided. John Cena was literally talking about how he'll whoop his ass the entire time, and I remember one day into his title reign, Cena told him, quote, your destiny is John Cena whooping your ass, and everything John Cena said in that promo came true. He stole his car, stole his dignity and his title. Del Rio would regain the title because this was hot potato season, but was nothing more than a transitional champion. Since they liked him so much, he got more chances, just not with the big title. It was that upper mid-card heel that never broke through to a higher level, and when we look back at his first WWE Championship run, it was honestly one of the most forgettable things to come from this era of WWE. From the Mexican aristocrat to the show-off Dolph Ziggler, the man who randomly gets a push like the Big Show turns. Here, he was a rising star, and his stock around 2012 was higher than it had ever been. So he became Mr. Money in the Bank. He was becoming more and more notable as the months went by, and after WrestleMania 29, he finally cashed in. The pop during his entrance was absolutely deafening, but it dwarfs what followed. He was finally a world champion, and no, it wasn't no 20-minute trial, but it was a real deal. However, and this is how you know a title reign is bad, this turned out to be the very best moment in the run. Unfortunately for Ziggler, he suffered an injury after Jack Swagger penalty kicked him in the face and never properly defended the title on television. In his very first title defense, he lost. After this, they didn't really trust him. They're like, hey, we're not going to be a main eventer. Had that injury never happened, it's honestly crazy to tell. Can't really say outright he's going to win a title again. I don't know about you guys, but for me, he's one of the worst world champions, and in kayfabe, he's probably the very worst because he had 0 successful title defenses. It's just a shame that an untimely injury harmed his main event push. From a rising star to an established talent, Sheamus in 2015. Unlike everybody else in this video, the Celtic Warrior was already familiar with championship gold. Matter of fact, he was the number 2 babyface throughout mid-2012 to mid-2013. Upon his return from injury in March of 2015, Sheamus was a heel. Sporting a mohawk, he was back to being a douche, as we all knew. All of a sudden, though, he won Money in the Bank. Now, I know WWE loves Sheamus, but Roman Reigns here was their man. It's odd to think that they actually had Roman Reigns lose here, because everybody at the time was thinking it was Roman's night. He was going to carry that briefcase and eventually cash in, but no, it was Sheamus. As Mr. Money in the Bank, I don't remember. It says here he feuded with Randy Orton, but I have 0 recollection of that. I also remember he was just taking L's as a mid-carder with the briefcase. You know, it's something a lot of the Money in the Bank holders have to endure. And like an RKO from out of nowhere, he cashed in on Roman Reigns and ended his title reign at 5 minutes and 15 seconds. During the run, he formed the League of Nations team, and he lost the title to Roman in Philadelphia. Funny enough, that was the night where Roman was well loved, and I'd like to talk about that in great detail in the future. But as for Sheamus, he fell in the same trap that many others fell in. Transitional champion. It's something that I've noticed a lot in this video, is that the Money in the Bank holders, you know, the Money in the Bank champions, are nothing more than the guys that keep the title warm for somebody else. All I remember from Sheamus around this time period is Roman smoking his ass and constantly making the others look like idiots. He slowly fell down to the mid-card and wouldn't receive another chance like this to this very day. Then there's The Miz last year. I'm not gonna lie, you guys. I was actually not gonna add this, as I didn't feel it would be necessary. We all knew it was gonna be transitional. Like, that's the thing. I added it last minute here because, well, it was a bad run in kayfabe, you know. Miz literally won the title, delayed his loss by a week, and once the time came, he just took the L. And that's it. That's literally it. I didn't think about adding it here because it wouldn't be necessary. Fast forward to later this year. Nikki ASH. Definitely one of the more shocking Money in the Bank winners. I remember thinking it was going to be anyone else. So Nikki winning caught me off guard. But nonetheless, I thought they were going to pull an Otis and have somebody else win the briefcase from her. A day later, and she's champion. I was somewhat speechless. I thought Charlotte was going to boot her and win the match. But that didn't happen. She actually won the Women's Championship. Personally, I was happy for her, but I saw what was coming from a distance. It was just a moment because after this, she looked like a dweeb and lost the title within a month. I wasn't really interested in this at all, especially compared to what they had on the other side, you know, Sasha Banks and Bianca. She won the title from Charlotte to lose it to Charlotte herself. Yeah, that's basically the run in a nutshell. All I remember is Charlotte losing and winning the title because they want to step ahead. And as I said, I knew this was going to happen from the very beginning. You know, I didn't think she was going to have a good run because she was a superhero. She had that superhero gimmick, and I didn't think they were going to do something well with it. And the last person to feature in this video, Big E. Similar to a lot of others, there was a lot of hype for a Big E title reign. I and many others wanted to see him take the singles role and go after the biggest title. And when he won Money in the Bank, it felt huge and felt like a sign of things to come. Fast forward to September 13th, he not only promised to cash in on Raw, but did the exact thing he said and became champion. Took him 8+ years to achieve this goal, and his run started off decently. He beat Lashley and Drew, but then he started taking beatings a lot. He lost to Roman at Survivor Series, And I do wish he won this, but it's Roman. He hadn't lost in so long, and it was very unlikely. Nonetheless, he pushed him to the very limit, so there's that. Following this, he became the third wheel in a feud for his own title, and we all know what happened at day one. It's not like everything was bad. He was putting in 100% outside of the ring. There was some good matches, but you can't help but feel they could have done more with them. I'm not going to try and predict the future. I did that with Kofi Kingston, and I was more than wrong. So we'll see what goes down with Big E. I'm just going to leave it at that. The point of this video is simple. I noticed a pattern when somebody wins the title because of Money in the Bank. And I'm not talking about the two-time champions for the most part like Randy Orton or those guys. But the guys that needed Money in the Bank to bring them into the main event, they got some bad luck on their side. This video featured 9 out of the 13 first-time champions. They're world champion by name, but their booking doesn't reflect that, basically. I want to know what you guys think about the Money in the Bank champions. Please comment down below. And that's it for this video. Make sure you hit the gut-wrench power bomb on the like button and perhaps the big ending on the subscribe button. Peace. I'm out.